This is the fourth session in time-dependent revelation and today. A note from our last session that the cover figure includes three lots of people. The first lot is represented by the rainbow. The second lot is represented by the menorah. And the third lot is represented by the seven churches in the book of Revelation. Also, in the last session on calendars, we identified Yahweh's sin reconciliation calendar and correlated it with the AM and Gregorian calendars. Today, we are now rapidly approaching the year 6000 OS. In this part 4, we identify three primary soul types. And during this session, we will examine the structure of man's soul. The three primary soul types relate to the meaning of the word seed in the Holy Bible, where we find three types of seeds: Satan's seed, Eve's seed, Cain's seed. Then we'll examine how these three seeds relate to mankind's soul structure. The word seed has several different meanings. The first type is a physical plant seed that reproduces the plant when it is sown. This is typical of a farmer planting his corn crop in his field. The second type, human descendants, or seed, resulting from Adam and Eve being fruitful and multiplying. And this includes all human beings that have ever existed. The third type, an item of knowledge or seed that influences other human beings. It is what self is promoting, such as the seed of rebellion. The Holy Bible clarifies the meaning of the word seed in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, when it addresses Eve and Satan's seed. Verse 15, and I, who is Yahweh, will put enmity or hostility between thee, who is Satan, and the woman, Eve, and between thy seed, Satan's seed, and her, Eve's seed. It, which is Eve's seed, shall bruise thy head, or destroy Satan, and thou, Satan, shall bruise his heel, or injure Yahweh. The bruising of Satan and Yahweh seems to be an allusion to the physical and spiritual struggle between them, where Satan is the ultimate loser. Now we will examine Satan's seed. Satan's seed clearly is not a plant seed. Satan's seed as descendants cannot exist because Satan is not a humankind and therefore cannot reproduce with humans. Satan was a beast of the field before the fall and was degraded by Yahweh to a serpent after the fall. Satan's seed as an item of knowledge first occurred in Genesis 3, 1 through 6, when he told Eve the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil would make them like Yahweh. Hence, Satan's seed is promoting the overthrow of Yahweh. Also, Eve's seed clearly is not a plant seed. However, all mankind are from the seed, or are descendants of Adam and Eve. Now Eve knows when Satan told her that eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil would make them like Yahweh, that he lied to her, and she now despises Satan, particularly when she gives birth to another child. We also know that Adam and Eve repented because they are the parents of Cain, Abel, and Seth. And Eve's seed is then promoting obedience to Yahweh under all conditions. After everyone was ejected from the Garden of Eden, to determine a person's soul type, Yahweh requires everyone to bring him a sacrifice from the best fruit of their labor. First, those who sacrifice their best reflect Eve's seed. Second, those who refuse to sacrifice reflect Satan's seed. And third, those who sacrifice but keep the best for themselves reflects Cain's seed. This third type is an individual who believes he is equal to or better than either Yahweh or Satan, and this state reflects the soul of Cain as described in Genesis chapter 4. It is important to note that Cain and Abel were twins, per Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 and 2, because this points out that soul types are totally independent of the material body. We know that Cain and Abel were twins because in Genesis 4:1, as we read, and Abraham knew Eve his wife, and she conceived. That means she became pregnant once, and bare the first birth, Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. Verse 2, she again bare, birth number 2, his brother Abel. Cain and Abel are twin sons of Adam, and Abel was a keeper of the sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. When one brings a sacrifice to Yahweh, they are to bring their best. This means they put Yahweh first in their lives, otherwise they're not. Abel brought the fat, or the best of his sheep, while Cain brought a sacrifice from the field. We see in Genesis chapter 4, verse 3 through 26, that Cain actually kept the best part of his sacrifice for himself, and Yahweh confronted him about it. Although some people believe Cain's issue with Yahweh was he did not bring a blood sacrifice. This understanding is not supported, and the ancient book of Yasser confirms Cain did not bring his best from the field. Abel would not support Cain, so Cain murdered him because Cain loved himself more than anyone else. Cain then negotiated with Yahweh because he believed he was equal or better than Yahweh. Yahweh commanded Cain to wander through the land, but Cain went and built a city in total disobedience. Cain's seed, then, is promoting self above everyone else, including Yahweh and Satan. The seed of Eve, Cain, and Satan reflects the three primary types of souls present on Earth after 000 OS and before the birth of Seth in 130 AM. This is 65 years AM plus or minus 65 years. 000 OS is bounded by 65 years. Possibly this variance is so large because it also needed to include the first murder by Cain. How are the three primary soul types implemented? We know man is replacing the fallen angels, but is restrained in a material body. Man is also in the image of Yahweh. Then the question becomes, what does it mean to be in the image of Yahweh? Yahweh's functional structure is triune and perfect. Yahweh has a body, which is spiritual and is referred to as the Son of God. The Son of God was present prior to creation of the material universe. The body physical, Son of Man, which is also Jesus Christ, the Messiah, which interfaces with the material universe, and Yahweh can use either one to interface with the true universe. The soul is referred to commonly as the Father. It contains perfect knowledge of the entire true universe. The will is referred to as the Holy Spirit. The will is responsible to implement the Father's decisions based on his maximum will for any item. Every individual is in the image of Yahweh, but certainly not perfect. Man has a body, a spiritual, and a physical mortal body. And our body interfaces and receives all knowledge from the true universe. We have soul. The soul contains all self's knowledge of the true universe from our birth through our death for our entire lifetime. The will is responsible likewise to implement all the soul's decisions based on maximum will. In part 1, we examined how the body uses its senses to provide the soul with items of knowledge from the true universe. But how does the soul function with the will? The will reflects the magnitude of energy associated with the soul's items of knowledge as a function of time. Will of T can be expressed in terms of love and faith. Will of T is equal to L of T times F of T, where L of T is the magnitude of importance, love, or priority to self. These terms are identical, where the properties change as a function of the magnitude of time. F of T is the magnitude of self's faith or confidence in an item. Also, they are identical terms, whose properties vary as a function of their magnitude and of time. In the following analysis, the magnitudes of will of T, L of T, and F of T are between 0, which is the only number that is completely void of anything, plus 1, which is the only perfect number. That means that 1 divided by 1 equals 1. 1 times 1 is equal to 1. If a soul contains anything, then we can count it, or mathematically, each individual soul contains a total number of n items of knowledge received from the true universe. Each individual soul is unique, having a different value for n. Each individual soul is unique, having different types of INs. No two individuals that have ever existed have identical soul content. Although everyone is different, IN quantifies the content of everyone's soul. Although we can sort the soul's items of knowledge, I sub n, in various ways, when the soul's INs are divided into two groups, which are often referred to by theologians as one's indwelling Holy Spirit and sin nature. The indwelling Holy Spirit is self's items of knowledge 1 through A, which are consistent with Yahweh's will. Then we have the following expression. Will Yahweh equals 1 over A times L of T, F of T, or the wills for all items of knowledge from 1 to A. This yields the average magnitude of the soul's wills that are acceptable to Yahweh. Likewise, the sin nature is self's items of knowledge, A plus 1 through Z, which are the remainder of the items in one's soul that are consistent with self's will for self. Then the following expression yields the average magnitude for the will of self, where 1 over Z minus A plus 1 times the sum of L times faith from A plus 1 to Z. Self's total will then is equal to will Yahweh plus will for self. And that's equal 100% or is equal to the ratio of 1. Or will Satan plus will self is equal to 100% or the ratio of 1. If self is a follower of Satan, will Yahweh is equal to 0 because Satan is a rebellion against Yahweh. The following diagram is very important to understand because it characterizes every possible soul structure that can exist with respect to one's indwelling Holy Spirit and their sin nature. This chart illustrates all possible combinations of the 3 primary soul types: Eve's seed, Cain's seed, and Satan's seed. The vertical axis on the left-hand side is the magnitude of will. The horizontal axis at the bottom is the composite will for all possible soul types in the world. The indwelling Holy Spirit is the shaded blue area at the left, and it includes all possible magnitudes of Yahweh's will, with the maximum on the left-hand side with Yahweh being primary, and going to 0 at the center where self is primary, or Cain's seed. If we take an illustration of a unique soul composition, at the left we see that will Yahweh equals to 0.75 indwelling Holy Spirit, which is equal to 1 minus will of self, which at this point is 0.25 and represents the sin nature. This is true for every conceivable combination that exists. There are many people in the world with this ratio of 0.75 indwelling Holy Spirit with a sin nature of 0.5. But the thing that is unique is that everyone has a different soul content. The sin nature is unique in its own right. It is equal to self plus the will of Satan. It is always equal to 1 on the right side of the chart, whereas on the left-hand side, it reduces to 0. And this unique chart addresses every possible type of soul and the ratio of its will, indwelling Holy Spirit, to sin nature. Hence, a follower of Yahweh will have a composite will or heart that is will Yahweh equal to 1 minus will of self. A follower of Satan will have a composite will or heart that is will of Satan equals to 1 minus will of self, with will of Yahweh in this situation equal to 0. Yahweh will judge each individual based on the magnitude of his indwelling Holy Spirit, which is his composite will Yahweh. Only Yahweh knows the exact magnitude of any individual's will of T Yahweh, although an individual may have a personal estimate of what the number is. We will explore this further in Part 5, Quantitative Properties of the Soul, where we will examine in depth the algebraic equations for will of T and anxiety of T, which characterize how each of us functions. These also demonstrate one of Yahweh's divine stamps in the Holy Bible. This concludes Part 4 of Time-Dependent Revelation today, and we have identified every individual is represented by a magnitude of will Yahweh, will self, or will Satan. The material contained in this seminar is available at www.afjbooks.com, and any questions email to afjbooks@charter.net.